Hello everybody, this is Howard the Teaser King talking about the 2017 NFL Draft we just saw over the weekend. Why it goes 3 days is so stupid, and I can't watch any of the analysis to listen to idiots like Mel Kiper and this Mark Mayhem or whoever, the NFL Network, are just mindless, trying to make a name, and they're wrong all the time and nobody calls them on it. You should look at last year and go, hey Mel, you like this guy, he sucked. You like Jeff Goff, he was the #1 pick, he sucked. So did that other guy, Chucky, whatever his name is. I don't know, the guy who does Monday Night Football. Oh, he loved Jared Goff, he sucked. I mean, these guys are just incredibly stupid and don't know what they're talking about, and they shouldn't be on there. But you can't watch it because you can't listen to them because they're too stupid. Um, One of the things I noticed too is how stupid the GMs are. I mean, if you just look at the All-American list, and there's several of them, if you just key in 2016 NCAA football All-American list, all these guys do is draft off the list. But where's the list created from? The list is created from either writers or whoever's doing CBS Sports. It's that Gary Danielson saying, "Here's your All Americans." These guys are clueless, mindless idiots. They don't have a clue. So that's all they do is they draft those guys on the All American list. And don't trust me, just go look at the list and you'll see. Oh, this guy, offensive tackle, Wisconsin. Yeah, they drafted him. Oh, some Alabama guys. They're so out of touch with reality, it's ridiculous. Their All-American quarterback was Lamar Jackson. Really? Was he the best quarterback? I don't think so. He was good against weak teams like Pacific and Maryland and Rutgers. But when he played the good teams, he had a big game against Florida State, did nothing against Clemson and the rest of them, and he lost. I think they lost to Pitt. But anyway, I mean, he was nothing. I think their ranking of quarterbacks was ridiculous. The Bears taking Mitch Trubisky, who played a year in a passing offense. Okay, so here's my point. If you're going to draft Mitch Trubisky, then you should be drafting the Baylor quarterback, the Western Kentucky quarterback, the Cal quarterback, all these teams who throw the ball all around. That's the quarterback you should be drafting, right? Syracuse next year because they went to the Baylor offense. Tulsa, they play the Baylor offense. So you might as well just grab quarterbacks off of passing things. But wait a minute, that doesn't work. Bryce Petty should be the best quarterback on the Jets after what he did at Baylor, and yet he can't get to the field. And that takes me to the offensive coordinators in the NFL are terrible. And the reason is they want to run an offense that they can't have a quarterback for. Instead of taking the talent of the quarterback and making the offense around. If you're going to draft Bryce Petty, then run the Baylor offense because he's going to give you 60 points a game with it. But you don't want to do that. You want to run this stupid Jet offense where they still can't figure out what the hell they do. It's the worst offense I've ever seen in my life. And they want to run it. And then they bring in a Baylor quarterback, but he can't fit the system. Well, then why are you bringing him in? Or what kind of quarterback do you want for your system? Because your quarterbacks stink. Your system's terrible. And this is the problem I have with the NFL. It's like you got all these good quarterbacks. They don't miss, get the kid from Western Kentucky can throw the ball. You can't say he can. He throws 50 touchdowns and 2 interceptions 2 years ago. You got these Baylor kids. There's no reason the Baylor kids shouldn't be as productive as they are. Knock, knock. Give me some Baylor offensive plays and we'll throw them in there. I mean, it's so stupid. These guys know what they're doing, and you don't accidentally throw 50 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and not know how to play quarterback. So when I hear Bryce Petty can't start and I'm watching Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's terrible, then I got a problem with the offensive coordinator, and you need to bring in better offensive coordinators. Second thing is, as I was saying in other videos, I was watching a lot of Rose Bowls and Michigan-Ohio State games and Notre Dame-USC games of the late 60s and mid to late 70s. You've got to be able to run the ball. If you run the ball, you win. You need to be able to throw it to a point. You can't just be one-dimensional. The team that's two-dimensional but can run the ball Archie Griffin, Jim Otis, John Brockington, Rob Lytle on Michigan, O.J. Simpson, Anthony Davis. USC's in the Rose Bowl all the time because they had a great defense. When USC didn't have much in the 70s when Plunkett was in the Rose Bowls because they didn't have a quarterback, and then they brought in Pat Hayden and they go to a couple of Rose Bowls against Ohio State. Michigan did not have a good quarterback, so they couldn't throw the ball. That's why they lost. But you have to have balance, and these teams that don't want to have a running back are never going to win at any level in football. Is the key to it. So I don't like when the announcers go, why did they draft Fournette and McCaffrey in the top 10? That's a problem, you know, when they're saying that. No, the teams need to be able to run the ball more. Seattle won a Super Bowl running. Denver won a Super Bowl running because Manning couldn't throw. Brady's basically copying the 81 Montana 49ers. All he does is basically hand the ball off for these quick passes over the middle. These 2-yard passes, they're running plays. They're not passing. New England is a running team. Tom Brady might throw 60 passes in a game. There's only maybe 15 that are actual passes down the field. The most are these little quick hitches to, I want to say Wesley Walker, but I know he's not there, but that style of guy, and that's just ridiculous. And that to me, they're a running team. So all they're doing is copying Montana. That's all New England does. And look at Atlanta. They ran the ball. They were very balanced. And look at the better teams. Pittsburgh's balanced. As soon as Le'Veon Bell went out in the playoff game, so did Pittsburgh. You cannot be a passing-only team and win. It's never been done. It never will be done. Even Montana was short passes, was basically his running game, and when they won, they ran the ball. They were able to run the ball. Only, you know, Dan Fouts has never won anything because a pass-only team doesn't win. The Steelers ran the ball and could pass. All the teams, I mean, the Packers had Bart Starr. The 49ers ran it and passed it. The Bears had Peyton. The Giants ran the ball. God knows Phil Simms can't quarterback, so you could run the ball a lot. That's what they did. It was power running and defense, and that is how you win now. And if teams would go back to that, they would win. I watch teams who just have a quarterback and they draft receivers and they think that's going to win until you get down to the 20-yard line and the defense shrinks up and there's no more zone because you're only dealing with 20 yards of field, and guess what? They can't score touchdowns because they can't run the ball. And as soon as you can't run the ball, you can't win the big games. And when you play the better defenses, which you got in the playoffs, you got to be able to run the ball and keep balance to keep them off the field. Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, Michigan, USC in the Rose Bowl. That's how they won. Balance. And that has never gone away, and that is always successful. It's not a fluke that USC was in the Rose Bowl every year and won it, and you know, Alabama ran the ball down everybody's throat. That's still the key. It's still how you win, not just passing. I don't care what the rules say. It's all a facade. It's not real. I'd like to apply for the Chicago Bears general manager job. If they don't fire that guy, the Bears are the stupidest team in the world. Mitch Trubisky will be a zero. He will be nothing. He shouldn't even be started. If he starts, he's going to throw a ton of interceptions because they're going to put pressure on him, and he's not nearly ready. You do not take a one-year starter in the NFL. They need to develop. They need at least 3 years, normally 4, but okay, so a 3-year quarterback. You know, you still watch Kellen Moore. Okay, they got Dak Prescott. He goes down, Kellen Moore will come in, and he's better than Dak Prescott, but nobody will give him a chance because he's left-handed or whatever the reason. I don't know, but he's still a great quarterback. Nobody accidentally wins more games than anybody else. Those 150 touchdowns and 20 interceptions in 4 years in college and can't play quarterback. Enough said there. Again, I am against taking offensive linemen till the 3rd or 4th round, and they should all come from Nebraska and Alabama and Oklahoma and USC and Pittsburgh and wherever you want to get them from. They're all the same. There is no difference, and no team with all number 1 draft picks does anything anyway. It doesn't matter if you don't have the running back in balance. The defense will just come in and close in on you. Look at Denver. Look at Denver New England game when Denver sacked Brady 20 times in the game, right? In the championship game. It doesn't matter who their offensive lineman is. Their scheme was all screwed up. They needed a tight end to chip. It didn't matter how good the offensive linemen were. They could have been the best offensive lineman who ever played. You're not stopping the guy from Denver. It didn't matter. It's the scheme. And teams, you don't need all number one pick offensive linemen. And most teams, I don't know how many New England had. I don't know how many Atlanta has. I can find that out, but it doesn't matter. Just have the guy who can block. It's the scheme. We're going to mix it up and run the ball and pass short, pass deep. You try to cover Julio Jones. You try to cover the running backs. A good tight end, good luck. As long as you have balance. The offensive line is fine. Anybody can play offensive line. You don't waste picks. You draft stars in the first 2 rounds. You draft difference makers. It's the only way to do it. So the Bears, with these small college guys and Trubisky, no. Best quarterback in the draft, Chad Kelly from Ole Miss, because he beat Alabama twice. And the third time, he still put up 40 points. Next best was Zach Terrell from Western Michigan. Nobody even drafted the guy. They go undefeated. They put up 40 a game. And I have a hard time with this wide receiver on Western. I don't know. I didn't write it down. I'll get into that video later. But he's not it. I mean, he's a good receiver, but Western had this great running back. I can't think of his name. Big guy, 6'5", just you couldn't tackle him. That's why the receiver was open. I apologize about the names. Hold on. Let me go to my app one, and I'll get you the Western in 1 second. Please bear with me. But they had a balanced attack. Here it was. Okay, Corey Davis, good receiver, but their key was their running back with Franklin. Javion Franklin, big freaking running back. He was the reason that Corey Davis could be single covered, because Corey Davis, you couldn't double team him because of Franklin. Franklin was just this, a great run. You couldn't tackle him, so you had to keep 8 in the box for him. Left single coverage on Davis, and Zach Terrell is a very good quarterback. So why isn't Zach Terrell, who led an undefeated Western team at 40 points a game, being mentioned? Where the hell is he? You got Franklin. I don't know if he's a senior or not. Should be drafted high. And you got Corey Davis drafted too high because you didn't look at the scope of the team. It wasn't Davis. It was Franklin making Davis stronger with a balanced offense, and Zach Terrell is a very good quarterback. That's your first thing. So they think he's like the guy in the Steelers, Antonio Holm. What's his name? Antonio. But it's the same thing at Central Michigan. He was with Dan Lefevre, who was a great quarterback, and so he was good because of the style that they did. So they're thinking, Corey Davis is going to be like the Steeler guy from Central Michigan, and he might be, but that's not the reason. So where's Zach Terrell getting picked? And you got Mitch Trubisky. What did he do? I mean, it's an explosive offense. It's the Southern Miss offense. The coach comes. He scored a lot at Southern Miss, so he puts in this high passing offense, making the guys look better than they are. North Carolina's not, it. Pitt, I like Pitt's quarterback much better. I like James Conner at Pitt. I'd have drafted him higher because he's an animal. I mean, that guy's great. I'm not really happy with Fontenot and McCaffrey. I think they're talented, but I don't think they have heart. They set out their bowl games, and that's a disgrace and something that I'm wondering their quality. I don't think they have passion to play the game, because if they did, they would have played. When you let your teammates down the way you did in the bowl games and didn't play because you're afraid to get injured, it's freaking football. Why is the Stanford-Cal game any more meaningful than a bowl game? He played in the Stanford-Cal game. Fontenot played in the LSU-Alabama. Maybe he didn't even play in that game. I don't know. He missed half the season last year with an ankle injury. I don't think the guy wants to play. And he reminds me of Clowney. He's worried about getting hurt. Clowney's done nothing in the pros. He had one or two good games near the end of the year, but mostly he's injured. Fontenot, he'll be injured all the time. He doesn't have the heart. Any of these guys, Peppers, they sit out. I would never have drafted them in the first round. Maybe maybe in the fourth or fifth round. They're not worth it. They don't care. They don't care about their teammates. They don't have passion for the game. All they want to do is make money. And you're playing football. You're going to get injured. And I mean, look at the golfer, Johnson. He's in socks in a condo at the Masters, and he falls and hurts his back on the steps. There's my point. This is football. These guys you can get hurt doing that. You're worried about not playing in a game, so maybe they shouldn't play at all. Like, why did Fontenot play at all last year, or McCaffrey shouldn't play at all, because they could make the pros in the next year, and then they could be stars and make money. No, you play because you love the game and you want to be with your teammates and you want to help your team win. And I don't see that from any of those three guys. Jordan Howard was the best cornerback in the country last year, and he goes in the 6th round of Dallas, and you just look at these GMs like they're idiots. I mean, they draft a lot of guys that are injured and that have been injured. I don't understand it. They get small school guys. I don't understand it. They can't play. Yeah, once in a blue moon, but I'd rather take the guy from Ohio State or Michigan over a guy from Delaware State. I mean, really? He's that good? He went to Delaware State. Okay, how did everybody miss him? Or he's a kid who used to play for Nebraska, but he sucked there and he had trouble, and then he transfers to, Philadelphia State, and then he was on Arkansas, he was on Nebraska, and he sucked there, so he went there. But he's a good player, and they draft him, and the guy never does anything because he's not good. They don't draft winners. They don't watch the games. The GMs are horrible. All they do is they draft the guys off the All-American list. So Google All-American list, college football 2017. They come up with Athlon. They don't even have Athlon sports. You'll have Sports Illustrated. You'll have 3 or 4 like CBS and Fox and ESPN's All-American teams. It's a joke because it's not. Well, you can just read down the list. All-American, yep, he was drafted. A monkey could do what they're doing, not a GM, not somebody who watches the games and knows the winners and the losers and the good players, and they spend way too much time on the time. I don't care if the guy can run a 2:0:40 versus a 5:0:40. Is he a football player? The speed is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if the guy's not a football player. If you can't read and diagnose a play, it's going to take him longer to figure it out. So his 4.240 versus the 4.540, the 4.540 who knows football and has a high football IQ and can figure out the plays is much more valuable, because he's going to be in the hole a whole lot quicker. And the 4.2 guy who isn't a football player, he's a fast guy, doesn't do me any good because he doesn't even want to make the tackle in the first place. So the speed thing is ridiculous. The quarterbacks that are being drafted are a joke. Trubisky in the first round, you just had plenty of them that. Okay, Denver got Chad Kelly and Jake Butt, and you wonder why they'll be in the Super Bowl and next year and the year after. I mean, great drafting there. Chad Kelly will start not next year because he's a little banged up, and I get that. But the year after, Chad Kelly, he'll be starting for Denver. Butt will be starting as soon as his knee heals, which everybody gets knee injuries. It's not a big deal. Very, very good. I mean, if you watch them play, if you watch Chad Kelly beat Alabama twice in a row and put up 45 last year, you know he can quarter. And if you watch Jake Butt at Michigan catch everything, and Jordan Howard at Michigan, and then there's too many Alabama and Ohio State guys. Ohio State was not that good last year, right? They didn't barely beat anybody convincingly. They had some wins, and they lost to Penn State in a brilliant game. So how good was their defense? I mean, It wasn't a lights-out defense like the prior year, so you got 3 or 4 guys from Ohio State going in the first round. Really? I don't agree with that. In Alabama, the problem with Alabama is it's a system. I wouldn't draft any defensive player from Alabama because none of them are any good, because if they're running the Pittsburgh Steelers 1974, 1975 defense. So it's a scheme. Just like Texas Tech throwing the ball over the field, and you don't want to draft the quarterback or the receivers because you say, well, it's a scheme. It's not really good. Well, it's the same thing here. You're drafting a scheme from Alabama. None of their players in defense are any good in the pros. Yeah, your Amari Coopers are good. None of the running backs have been any good. None of the quarterbacks are any good. It's just a scheme thing. So yeah, Cooper, he's good. The offensive lineman, I wouldn't waste a first-round pick on any Alabama offensive lineman. Get him later. And you think everybody there is a 5-star and he's great, and it's bullshit. It's just a scheme. It's just they're going to power run and they're going to play defense, stop the run defense. A guy like Kelly comes and torches them. 40 points 3 years in a row shows their secondary sucks. They can't put pressure on the quarterback. I mean, it's not, the reason they've been successful is the SEC has not had good quarterbacks. And therefore, Alabama can expose them, stop the run, and that. But Manziel beat him, and he's a lousy quarterback. Kelly's a very good quarterback, beat him. Nobody else, LSU hasn't had a good quarterback in 5 years. I don't know, Florida hasn't had a good quarterback in a long time, since Tim Tebow. Georgia hasn't had a good quarterback in a long time. So none of these schools that Alabama plays, Prescott played them very well, right? If you looked at the Mississippi State-Alabama game, it got down to the wire there. Prescott came back and made it like a 23-20 game or something. I know, I had Mississippi State in 10, 11 points. Got the W there, but it was Prescott. That was with Prescott. Last year I didn't touch Mississippi State. But that's my point. Zach Terrell, where's he? Why isn't he drafted? He's clearly much better than these guys, especially these 1-year guys and these 2-year guys. Winston, he's terrible in the pros. He played 2 years. You've got to have a 3 or 4 year starter. That's all there is to it, because it's such a hard position, and you got to be coached properly. You got to learn how to read 2 or 3 guys and throw it. So Joe Montana did not have the strongest arm, couldn't run a 40, but you know what he could do? He could win, and that's what you look for. So definitely, you've got to have a balanced team. Definitely should be drafting these running back. Connor should have went in the first round from Pitt, the running back. I don't know. There's a really good running back at Wyoming. There's some other good running backs that should have went much earlier. Donnell Pumphrey from San Diego State should have been drafted ahead of McCaffrey. He's much better than McCaffrey. He had like 6,000 yards at San Diego State, and they played Boise, and they played good conference. The other guy I'd like to mention, who if I had a team I would pick up and put somewhere, is Quentin Flowers, the quarterback from South Florida. If you would watch South Florida's games, literally you couldn't tackle the guy. They'd score 50, 60 points a game, and he's much better than Lamar Jackson. You couldn't stop him. I mean, he wasn't that great of a passer, so I'm not saying to make him a quarterback. This guy had moves that the defense just couldn't even touch the guy. It was like Barry Sanders moves. And he's quick and he's fast. I'd make him a punt returner, and I'd make him like a wide receiver on screens or something. But that guy, you got to get on the field. This guy, you can't touch him. And playing football, you can't touch him. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. I thought that guy should have been drafted, but as a if you got the Michigan quarterback, the one that was terrible, running for Jacksonville, Flowers is 20 times better than that guy. And last, this Ross, this receiver from Washington, right? Okay, he was the number 23 best receiver in college football last year, going by his stats. And let's see what happened when Washington played USC. He disappeared in the game. This guy is not all that. He's drafted way too high. You've got to look at the big games. This is what blows my mind with the GMs. They have this pro day and they have this, let's see how fast you run. Just watch Washington against USC, and you see Washington didn't show up for the game. So why are you drafting all these guys from Washington? Their defense wasn't good against USC. Their offense wasn't good against USC. How are they going to do in the pros? They can't handle USC at home. They lose. That's my point. That's what you look at. I mean, these USC guys are much better. So why are you drafting all these Washington guys like you think they're it? It just, again, blows my mind. They're not. Michigan, yes, they should have had all those guys drafted and more. That was, you're getting coached by Harbaugh. Their defense, I'd be eating up their defense. Jordan Howard to go in the, what, 4th, 5th, 6th round by Dallas is absolutely great for Dallas, and just shows you how bad the GMs were. He was All-American the whole year, and the guy didn't get drafted. I mean, if you'd watch Michigan play, you couldn't even complete a pass against the guy. All of a sudden, the Ohio State receivers and the Purdue receivers, the Penn State, and all these receivers that he plays against, and he played against Colorado, aren't any good. But in the pros, he's not going to be able to cover anybody. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, I'll do a team-by-team draft. You can see I can talk for hours on this draft stuff. It's just bullshit. Mel Kiper doesn't know anything. The guy on Mike Mayock knows nothing. They just talk, but they don't know. They don't watch college. If you'd watch college as much as I do, you just go right down the teams and go, fucking Chad Kelly beat Alabama twice. How is he not on the board? And I'm sick and tired of these off-field problems. Oh, he's got an off-the-field. They're football players. It's not a bunch of attorneys or CPAs. It's football players. They like contact. If you don't like contact, you can't play. So how screwed up are you in the initial to want to run into these big linemen and get hit, right? So you're not dealing with a normal guy who wants the contact in the first place. So why do you act all crazy when, well, he has off the field? You start paying the guy properly and you help him out. Believe me, he's fine. He wants to play football. He enjoys the contact. So all this other crap about off the field problems and the guy slips 5 rounds. I mean, look at Connor Cook last year. Guy came in against Houston and he moved the ball very well. The problem is he's at the wrong team because they already have the other guy. I can't think of the Oakland quarterback, but you got the superstar or Carr. You already got Carr. You don't need Connor Cook. Now, if I was Houston and I wanted a quarterback, I'd make a trade for Connor Cook. I would have drafted him in the first place instead of taking the guy from Arizona State who sucked if you watched Arizona State play. I mean, this is the whole thing. If you watch them play, you know they suck. When they get into the pros, why do you think they're going to be any good? And then they're not good because they weren't good in college. They couldn't play in the big games. They're not winners. So why are you drafting them, expecting them to win? And Connor Cook does everything, and you don't draft him. And now you need another quarterback, and now you're drafting Deshaun Jackson, who might be good, he might not be good. Or Deshaun Watson, who might be good, he might not be good, but he's not as good as Connor Cook. Now, he beat Alabama, so you put him in the Chad Kelly category. And I'm sure he can drop back. And if he can't, you change your offense, because God knows Houston has no offense. It can't get any worse. Why don't you run the Clemson offense? Who knows? You might actually score 30 points a game with the Clemson quarterback running the Clemson offense that scored on Alabama 40 points. That would be I would hire the offensive coordinator at Clemson, get rid of whoever the idiot is I got running it now at Houston. Obviously, he has no clue what he's doing. And maybe he'll score 30 points a game, and actually with your defense, you could beat everybody. I don't get it. I don't get why half these offensive coordinators are in the NFL. They have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue. I'll tell you, the best coach that I saw, besides Lombardi, was Don Shula. Don Shula ran Zonka at kick. He ran the ball, even though he had Bob Greasy and Paul Warfield. He threw the ball 10 times a game and ran it down the throat and played defense and won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Then he gets a guy named Marino in the 80s. He's still coaching there. What does he do? He gets rid of the running game, and they become the leading passing team. But they don't win any Super Bowls because you can't, being a pass team, only win. So between Fouts and Marino, that's proof to my case. You have to run the ball. You have to be balanced because you've got to rest your defense. Defense wins. Period. Lawrence Taylor, the 46 Bears, even the 49ers had great defenses. The Steelers, on and on and on. One note on the Steeler Raiders 70 playoff games. All right, Steelers, the Raiders could have won the Immaculate Reception game. All the others, the Steelers won, except for when Harris and Blair both had broken ribs and couldn't play in the game, and that's when the Raiders finally went to the Super Bowl. It's because they beat a depleted Steeler team without their star players. But the defense wins. And you had Stabler throwing the ball all over the field. Who won? Steelers always won when they were healthy against them. You only win with defense. You must run the ball to rest your defense to win the games. That's the way it's done. But my point on Shula was he was smart enough that he had Marino to become a passing offense. Jets, you got Bryce Petty, become a Baylor offense. Houston, you got Deshaun Watson, run the Clemson offense. Anybody else? Whoever took the kid from Texas Tech, you better start playing the Texas Tech offense. Otherwise, you can't draft a guy who's good in one offense and put him in another offense and expect him to be good. I'm a good golfer. I shoot in the high 70s. But if you're going to put me on a tennis court, I'm probably not going to be a great tennis player just because I'm a great golfer. So you can't be you can't bring in a Baylor guy and not run the Baylor offense to this Texas Tech guy and run another offense. You're bringing in the Clemson quarterback. Don't try to fit him in this crappy Houston offense. Put him in the Clemson offense and let him run it. He's just proven he can beat Alabama, which is a pro team anyway. So if he can beat Alabama, he'll beat half the teams. Anyway, TEASERKING, doing what TEASERKING does, predicting winners, knowing how, knowing the insights. And I know these college players better than any GM that drafts in the NFL. I prove it every year. You watch Zach Terrell will be good. It's just Jared Goff. I told you, just look at last year's, that he would suck. And Wenke of the Philadelphia Eagles, I said, who the hell is this guy? Both those guys are not 1 and 2 draft picks. TEASERKING does what TEASERKING does. I know talent, and I know how to pick winners because I know talent. And I know why you win a game. You win with a balanced offense. You have to run the game, and you have to have a good defense. That's why I bet Seattle a lot, because they run and they have the best defense. That's why Atlanta wasn't over in the Super Bowl. They don't have a defense, but they're getting better. Dallas's defense was improved greatly. I got 2 Michigan guys, and Michigan, you're going to start drafting Michigan players ahead of Alabama and Ohio State because of Jim Harbaugh. Enough said. Have a great week. I gave you some baseball winners. I'll analyze the draft team by team coming up. Thank you very much. Great holiday, great Sunday, and if you please email me, go to the site www.teaserking.com. Pick up some money in baseball. I'm making it very cheap, $15 a day. I'm putting out 15, 11, 9-unit plays, and I'm going about 75% right now. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great Sunday.